Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon, good evening. We are here again with the WASTELESS WORLD TALKS, today with Bill and Kevin. Finally, all of three of us again. And we have a very special topic. We would like to talk about the conditions which are behind the growth of the giants. Because, we have identified who the giants are. We have talked about how they work. But we almost never touched before how they grow from the size of let's call it from a normal size to a giant size. What was the condition? And the aim of this talk is not to teach anyone how to become a giant. The reason is to be aware of the moment when somebody will try to be the giant. So to prevent this happen and to prevent the same danger happening which we are facing today. So I don't know who will start today, but I know I have to pick up. Mami, já ti zavolám za chvíličku, jo, za hodinku. Děkuju. Sorry for that. So who will start?
Can we start by defining giants?
Of course.
So I think in the context of previous conversations, we have pointed the people in power, the people who have gathered power, either political or business power, by being big or by being loud. And then is that do you agree with that so far?
If we speak about the people, yes. If we speak about companies, I think the way was slightly different. So
okay, that's a good distinction. So which way shall we talk about them? As the people or as the businesses?
I think that generally the people are starting the businesses, but the most influential one at the moment are the businesses, I will call it, because politics for me is a business. So if we speak about the businesses, I think we can be more closer, because if we will speak about the people like Michael Jordan, who through his really hard work become the best player and a giant on the field, this is something different. I think there is right because he was a role model, or he is a role model, and many are. So on the personal level, I generally prefer the people to grow to giants, the real ones, not the artificial created ones. But let's speak about those who really endanger the existence of humans, humanity, and the planet. And these are, we can call them industries or businesses. It doesn't matter.
I have three conditions which a giant needs to grow. They either have to be a cartel or a monopoly. And whichever they are, the third thing they need is connections to political power. I think with those three conditions, you become a giant.
Mm-hmm. Okay, do you agree, Bill?
Yes, I think those are good conditions. So at first I said we don't have cartels, but in fact we do. We just call them different things. And I'm thinking of companies like Amazon or Facebook or Google, and yes, they fit those conditions, Kevin.
I see, or you know, that I have the similar discussion today in the noontime, and we came to slightly different conditions how to grow, how the giant, or from which the giant is growing. One of them is the fear generally it's spread in a different ways. But the second is, for example, the addiction on the product or solution which is being offered by the giant themselves. And it is like we came to the fact that generally many giants like mass. So a lot of things, mass of people, because but in fact, they don't like people to be connected. So it's a very opposite to what you said, that the connection, so the giants grow up from their own connection, but they do not want to see the connection of the users, of the people on the ground. In fact, they prefer that they put ourselves as individuals in the silos, or we can speak in the cocoons, but the cocoons are not communicating to each cocoons. They follow the move. And if you say about the Facebook, Google, and all the new ones, new giants generally, they work exactly this way. But they don't want us to communicate face to face. They prefer us to communicate screen to screen. And I think this is another condition of a, let's call it modern age giant, maybe, that he needs on the side of the user generally the disconnection from the real world. Or at least I see it so.
So that's what they fear, Michael. They fear our face-to-face connections.
Yes. I think that the giants really fear that people get and will work together. Because this is our power. Even the ants, a single ant cannot move so much. But if there are many, they will. And with us is the same. But they try to disconnect us. This is why we have the political right and political left, and in the middle, it's generally all these are disconnected. Why we have Apple users and we have Android users, why we have, and so on. So it's generally the intention to disconnect. And we are in this level of society or this level of society, in this church, on this church. You see, all these are disconnecting humans. It is very interesting. I never thought about it this way, but the discussion today in the noon was quite interesting, enlightening. So, and I think the power then came from the combination what Kevin says, plus in combination what you says and I added. So I think this is what they get their power of from. Sorry.
Can I tell you what condition the future should provide for giants to grow?
Mm-hmm.
That is that every giant is broken up into manageable sizes that can be controlled by society, and that they face real competition. I think that should be conditions for these little smaller groups. If they want to grow, they can grow, but giants should never be allowed to grow anymore.
This is why this discussion is so important, because for some people, the giants are like gods today. Apple, we should have it because it's Apple. Or we are in a community of Tesla car, or it's so many. So we can just name it. There are just two examples. And I do fully agree. This is why we have to know what is the sign. This is one thing. When it become really the giant itself. But we need to know as well what feed them. And if I speak about the individual level, we spoke about it last time with you and with Bill before. Generally, our fear is one of the reasons why the small things look so big, so gigantic, like the small spider looks so big. It's our fear. So, and it can be encouraged different ways, so, or let's say enlightened different way. But I like the idea because I agree with you that in general in Wasteless World there shouldn't be giants, not in this meaning. Other Michael Jordans, yes, the personal giants, but not the corporate ones. I think that was a big mistake.
We've always battled that, and with the banks, when we have our difficulties with banks in America, somebody always will explain or promote the theory that it's too big to fail. If it fails, too many people will be hurt. And that is a sign. If we start thinking about being too big to fail, that's a sign that the giants have become too powerful.
You know, today in the morning, you know that I do not believe in coincidences, but today in the morning, the first what I saw in internet was an article by Guardian. And here is the name of the article: CEO of the biggest carbon credit certifier to resign after claims offset worthless. His name is David Antonioli, and he stepped down from Vera, which is accused of approving millions of worthless offset used by major companies. You know, they manage, he has been for 15 years in the company. They manage over 2 billion US dollars, 2 billion carbon offsets, you know. And the issue is that I will call this already a giant. And the issue is when the head steps down, he is not facing a prison. He's not facing a request to pay it back. He just stepped down and leave. That's unbelievable. Really, it's the wrong way, which generally the rules of giants has been set up by the giants themselves. And they are ready to play only according to their own rules. I just received half an hour before our call, I received an email from Enel company, which is the power grid company, one of the largest energy company in the world, which I participated in a content 3 years ago, generally in a challenge. They never replied, they never thanks, nothing at all. And they asked me today whether I would like to participate again in some challenge. And you know, the reward should be to work with the largest energy company in the world named Enel. So I wrote to them, sorry, for 3 years. 3 years ago, I proposed a solution which you will not have this problem today. Why should I trust you? And many people ask me, you know, that I am, how they call it? I am not polite to the giants and so on. Why should I? Why should I? I don't say any rude words and so on. I just mention what was there. And I don't see it's unpolite. To speak the truth is not unpolite. It's the reality. And this is why I prefer to speak about the reality. And this will damage, if we start with that, it will damage the other giants even more. 1 hour ago, there was a picture of the Greenpeace stopping the private jet on some airports, generally against the private jets use. So I asked them firstly, why they do not stop the private jet of United Nations, where the boss is every day in another country and he is flying a private jet of United Nations. This is one question. The second, you know how long, do you know where Greenpeace was established?
No?
1956.
Really?
Wow. I just found it. And, you know, I asked them in a second post where they again posted. So I asked them, you know, I would like to know why in 50 years generally, still there is more damage, environmental damage, and why the budget of Greenpeace is growing year by year. There's something wrong about it. And, you know, I don't expect any reply because there will be none.
No.
But it's important to speak about these things.
I don't know if you saw also in The Guardian today, there was an article about recyclable plastic, and that plastic isn't really a good material to recycle because the more it's recycled, the more toxins are created within the plastic, which threatens both the environment and human beings.
I haven't seen that. On the other hand, I have a little doubts about it. You know, it's a lot of these articles are generally academic articles or scientific articles, or let's say approved by the scientist's name, but the reality is usually very different. So, and I'm very careful about these. So at the moment, especially because I have seen so many that for me, plastic is nothing wrong with it. The wrong is the part how we behave with it. That's the wrong part. So if I refill the bottle, I can do it and there is no release. And even if I do it 10 times, there will be no release. If after, it's possible, I don't know, but for 10 times, it will not. But all the companies who promote it, like yesterday it was McDonald's, again, that they will use ocean collected plastic generally to produce whatever, I don't know. But it's just a PR. It's very cheap. You pay the scientists few thousand, few 10,000. It's peanuts comparing to a marketing campaign on a global scale. So I'm very careful about this. And unfortunately, Guardian is just a PR publication newspaper. So one day they write about that the cigarettes are wrong, and the second day that they are right. So it's just PR. So coming back to the main topic, so how do we recognize, or what is, so did we mention all what makes the giants grow, or we would like to add something?
I think the giants grow because of their power. Power begets power. And people and organizations want the power on their side so that they can use it for their own purposes. So the power is desirable. Size is another word for power, and that's terribly attractive. And right down to the individual human level, we want more. We are not satisfied with enough. And it's the same in corporate. In the corporate world, if you have the same amount of sales and profit this year as you had last year, that's a bad thing. And it's a mindset that smothers movements like Wasteless World, because it gets the masses to think, as you said at the beginning of the show. It gets the masses to think, is this right? Do I really need a bigger house, a bigger car? Do I need a bigger bank account? It's just a mindset, and it permeates all of our society. In order to stop that, we've not had a lot of voices talking against that. In my experience, what voices talk against that? And now there are beginning to be some voices talking against. Certainly, Wasteless World is talking against it and asking us to be not satisfied with what we have. I don't like the word satisfied because it connotes some sort of giving up against making things better. But our definition of better is polluted. So it's just a horrible mindset that we have made for ourselves, and that's what makes power, and that's what keeps people from thinking on their own about what is good for mankind, what is good for my brothers and sisters, because the answer traditionally has been, well, I'm going to get bigger so I can help them, whatever help means. But I need to get bigger. I need more power. I need more money so that I can help people. And in reality, what happens is like trickle-down economics. What happens is that the people at the top, the people who belong to these giants, are the ones who get better, bigger. They get richer. They get helped. And the homeless people don't get helped. And the people who do not have access to medical care or access to the internet so they can access information and begin to think for themselves, that doesn't get better until the giants say, oh, my marketing people told me to talk about ocean produced plastic, so I'm going to talk about that now. And see, I'm good for the people, where in fact, you know, I'm a marketing person, from way back. And I am so embarrassed by what marketing people have done. And the first case that I studied in school was about the sugar industry in the 1950s. And somehow the marketing people convinced Americans that anything is going to be better if it's got sugar in it. And so Americans consume more sugar, and they put sugar in everything. And there's lots of drawbacks to sugar. Those same marketing companies from Madison Avenue are the same ones that led the cigarette industry campaigns in the 60s and 70s. And I don't know if either one of you are old enough to remember the commercials on television where an actor in a doctor's coat with a stethoscope around their neck comes out and sits on the edge of his desk and lights up a cigarette and says, "It helps digestion." And that's all marketing, but people buy that because they don't want to believe the opposite. They don't want to believe that sugar is bad for you, that smoking is bad for you, that and so on. And these same marketing people from Madison Avenue have led many other, and in fact, they're being employed now by the waste industry and by the plastics industry and by the petroleum industry to make us look good. Come up with a slogan, come up with a jingle, come up with an advertisement that makes us look good, and they can do it, and they can do it. So
Yes.
you said earlier, Michael, about you don't feel like it's necessary to be polite to the giants who ignored you and never followed up and never answered your questions. You don't feel it, and and that made me think, what is the opposite of being polite? Is it lying? No. Is it telling the truth? Well, the truth is different to different people. The truth to the petroleum company is different than the truth to me on certain issues. So what is the opposite of being polite to them? The opposite to being polite to them, I think, is an honest. And then honest is like truth also. It means different things to different people. But to respond to people by how you see it, and to use your gift, Michael, of saying that simply, because when I ramble on here for 5 minutes, it's not simple, and so it's hard for people who are listening to understand. So we need things like the wasteless world, and you think about that, that phrase or that term. So we need to say simple things. I think we need to define things like humanity. Humanity has terrible definitions. It sounds good. It's one of those sound good words. But if you look it up, it's very circular. Um, and it says, good things and being kind to other people and the human qualities. Well, you know what? Human qualities include war, and they include killing people. So, but that's not in the definition. So we need to think past the jingles and the marketing hype, and awareness is the first way. So that's, sorry for the long-winded answer, but we have to do things differently. We as people need to do things differently, and talking about the wasteless world and humanity is one way to start doing that.
So your turn, Kevin.
I was thinking about the giants and the relationship between humankind, society, and the giants. And we actually get the giants. We just it is if we let these giants exist, they exist in society with the support of our politicians. They can't exist in a vacuum. And the question you have to ask is, are they doing more harm than good? And I can't think of any giants that do more good than harm. And that's a problem for humankind. And the fact that these giants, the services that they provide, the products they provide, we are addicted to them. That, but in a way, we're forced to be addicted to them. We're forced to be addicted to fossil fuels. We can't exist without internet now, which means we can't exist without giving away data and being exploited. And that is society that has put us in that position. And we, of course, we are society, but society, like Bill was saying, we're second, we're humankind first, we're society second. We can't change being humans, but we can change our society. And the breakup of the giants is a big step forward in improving our condition.
And of course, the society begins, or let's say the journey of human begins with education. And I don't speak only about the school education, from the very beginning of the birth till the very end. And this is, yeah, you name it, both of you name it exactly right. One question which I had in the noon session: have you ever faced a giant knowing that the giant is doing wrong and trying to cheat on you, and you resist it in your life? And there was an example by Pat generally delivered how, let's say, pretended famous musicians came to use her recording studio. In the end, it was shown up that it's not true. The big players, the issue is at the moment that the giants are those who are presented as a trust wolf. So the society thinks, okay, if a president said that, it must be the truth. The very opposite is frequently the result. So, but the question is, have you had this opportunity, and how you challenge it, how you get out of it? How did you avoid that the giant will deliver harm to you?
Michael, I mean, that's a very good question. But in my experience, one of the first things I did in school every semester, with a new teacher, is to try to figure out what that teacher wants from me. Does that teacher want me to just repeat all the answers that he or she has given me? Or does the teacher want me to come up with, some good, so what does the teacher want? And so I spent the first several weeks, or up through the first grading period, trying to figure out what the teacher wanted. It was the same thing when I went to work at a company. And what does that company want? What does it want? What I didn't ask myself is, what do I want? I didn't ask that question. Or what is good for humanity? I didn't ask that question. So I found myself marrying my ethics, or my morality, or my outcome with whatever the teachers was, or the employer was. And sometimes internally, I got all messed up because of that, in some ways, because I realized this is the wrong goal. This is the wrong path. This is whatever. But I needed that grade, and I needed that paycheck. And so it wasn't until later in life, and I think it was when all the kids were grown and out of the house, and I no longer worried about putting food on the table or shoes on their feet, that I began to say, what now? What is my motivation now? What is my purpose? Why do I do this? and that's fairly recent in my life. So in answer to your question, very seldom did I ever talk back or resist the teacher or the boss.
Kevin, you work with a quite interesting environment. Some of them are really giants. So what was there in your life? Anything what you feel is wrong and you was able to resist?
Only I've quit quite a few accounts when you find out what the client either really does or what the client really wants, and then they happily walk away from those projects. I just don't want to do them. It's interesting doing strategy. Sometimes one of the first things you ask a customer is what business are they really in, to get them to think, you know, what am I doing? I make this, but is that the business I am in? You know, it's a way to get them to think about their own business in a better way. But I think as consumers, we should all look at the giants and ask them, what is their real business? What business are they really in? So, for example, Nestle is in the plastic bottle producing business. That's what they do. And I think then it's really interesting. So, you know, you can argue that Facebook is in the data mining business, or it's in the exploitation business, depending on how you feel about your data being stolen. And I think we need to look at all of these giants and ask, what are they really doing? What are they really giving to society, which isn't very much. So therefore, what are they taking from society? What are they holding us back? Are they preventing new technology? Are they preventing better ways of doing things for profit? Because these guys are not in the business of making our lives better. That's one thing you can be sure of.
Do you think that the giants are ready to unite? I don't speak that they play the same game with money. They do. But on my opinion, the giants are not ready to unite with the others. You know, Facebook will be Facebook, Google will be Google, Elon will be Elon, and he will not join the others because they feel themselves to be so strong that they don't need anybody else. Of course, everybody is somehow involved in the politics, but that's another topic. But I think that this is one of the biggest weaknesses of the giant, that they are not able to unite, to work together. In contrary to humans, which we just stand up, take the showers, and we can do it now, without waiting for approval, without waiting for someone to say it's right. With the waste prevention, it's easy. Every single one can prevent waste to happen right now, right here. It will be really great if we do, you know, if we the next day will not go to shop to buy the next water, because the impact of this change of behavior will be so strong that the wave will generally swipe away some of the giants almost immediately within a month's time. They will have no, because right now they are working with inventories and similar stuff, but they will not be able. So it's quite, on my opinion, the giants are not able to unite because of their size and will to do so.
So let me ask you this. One of the things that I spend time on is trying to envision the future 2030 and 2040. And in so many of the giants today, their industries are being severely impacted. The petroleum industry, once the electric vehicles and the autonomous vehicles have become more than 50% of the cars on the road. In the petroleum industry, 70%, close to 70% of their product goes for transportation. And now if the transportation is all electric, they have lost a tremendous amount of power. Same for the insurance industry, which insures all these cars. And in the U.S., the insurance industry pays for all the health care. And when we go to Medicare for all, which many people believe we will be there, and autonomous vehicles that are owned by fleets, which are self-insured, the insurance industry will be gone or will be severely, broken up. And it's the same with many of the industries that we accept today. And so will just new giants take their place, or will new giants with new rules? Can we impose new rules? And I'm not so sure about that, because I don't think we learn fast enough to put the rules on before the innovation takes over. But
you are right. I have yesterday a seminar for auditors. It was quite interesting because it was a second year already, new people, and a lot of discussion about standards and non-standards and so on. And you see how, for example, we have only 3 minutes left, or 3.5. You see what example the crude oil industry is doing. So the head is taking over the head of COP28 is led by the head of the crude oil industry. Many complaints. But this is probably the only thing they can do.
But this actually then I think that the scary point of this is, and the thing that I would hate to see more than anything else, and you can see it with COP, with Davos, with the G7, and that is this move for a global government. That is the giant to resist entirely, with every piece of passion and skill in our bones. We don't need, we don't want, and it'll be built behind our backs, of course. And then we'll wake up one morning and the politicians have, of course, taken over the whole planet. And so that's what we really must be aware of.
And to connect with that is, of course, our addiction to data and electric power. So if we one day will be able to switch everyone for 1 month to these devices, just for 1 month to switch back, it will make a huge difference to all or many of the giants, because digitalize money, digitalize humans, digitalize all what we have, everything must be scanned and so on. Must not. It works without, it will work without as well. It's not a must, it's a push and will of few to really control everyone. And as Orwell 1984, he described it quite well, and many others as well. So this is what we really have to prevent. And I am truly happy that we outline what makes the giant so strong. And we spoke about it. It's something from our talk, if the people will listen, they will learn what is needed to be done on the personal level to cut out the addiction, to reduce the addiction of the power. Because, as you said, there has been many trials to take over and rule the world. The last one was Hitler, was the name of this guy. Probably few know him. And every time it ended the same way as the revolutions. So happiness and richness of few and the scarcity of all the rest. And this is what we have to prevent. So because we have only 1 minute left, so we will meet again on Google Meet, but let me wish everyone, thank you for listening to us. We will be happy about your comments, and have a nice time, free of waste and wasting in all its forms. Stay safe, free, and please be visible to show the giants the true power of human. Thanks a lot, and see you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.